Hello and welcome to the Ridiculously Good VA Show with Tracy Daviero. If you are a virtual assistant or want to be one, this is the place to learn the tips and tricks you need to become a ridiculously good VA. I've been a part of the VA industry since 1998, and I'm excited to get to know you and help you build an amazing business. Let's go. Hey there, welcome to another episode of the podcast that teaches you how to be a ridiculously good virtual assistant. Today we're going to talk about what you need to put into your virtual assistant contract. Our quote comes from Konosuke Matsushita, a Japanese industrialist, and he says, "After-sales service is more important than assistance before sales. It is through such service that one gets permanent customers." I like this quote for today's episode because it is the contract that is the starting point of the after-sales services. And what we detail in it sets the client's expectations that hopefully will lead us to that long-term relationship with them. Let's go. Today we're talking about what you should put in your VA contract. It's so important for you to get your clients to sign a contract prior to working with you. Having a contract sets you apart from other VAs. It details what you're going to do for your clients and how much it's going to cost them. And it tells them how to work with you and how to stop working with you. Professional VAs, yes, ridiculously good VAs, use contracts. They should include the standard stuff, client contact info, your contact info, but there are a few other things that you should make sure to include as well. And that's what I'm going to share in this episode. But first, I want to quickly talk about putting dates on a contract. Some VAs feel the need to lock the client into a contract with dates on it, like a contract for 3 months, 6 months, or a year. I never did this, and I actually don't recommend it unless, of course, you're working on a project. It may feel like security for you to keep the client for a certain period of time, but it really just locks both of you into something, and it can actually be scary for the client to make the decision to commit. Some VAs do this without issue. I just never did, and I prefer an open, ongoing contract that you can update at a specific time, like annually or quarterly, whatever it is. So that's my little caveat to begin. You may have a different opinion about dates on contracts. Of course, you can put a starting date. You should put a starting date, but I don't believe in using the contract to lock the client into working with you long term. I think that that's something that you build over time. So, what should you include in your contract? That's what we're going to talk about now. Let's go. A scope of work. This is where you tell the client what you will do for them. Don't just write down general admin or VA tasks. You want to describe in this part of your contract in detail what it is that you will do for your client. Name the tasks or name the projects and describe the frequency you're going to do those tasks for the client. This is one of the most important parts of your contract. Setting the client's expectations is what you can do by being as specific as you can. If you write down client care or customer service, what does that entail? You need to describe that for your client. You don't have to write a paragraph, but a few words to describe what that task is. Include every task or deliverable that you're going to provide for your client. And add in one last point that indicates that you'll also do other tasks as agreed upon by both of you. So you can expand or change what you do. And keeping an eye on this part, this last little point, is what can help you to know when to revise your contract with that client. The reason for the clarity in the description is so that you are being really clear for the client in terms of what you will do. Communication. You are going to want to set boundaries for communication with your clients. You have to, or they could start treating you like their employee. How do they communicate with you? How do you coordinate work to be done? How often do you respond to them? How much lead time do you need for things? That might be a little specific for a contract, but in general, what do you need them to respect in terms of your communication boundaries and your time in order to work well with you? That should be detailed in your contract. I used to communicate with all of my clients through a weekly production meeting and then via email or project management system the remainder in the week. And so that detail went into my contract. It was important that as we began working together, the client knew I only did scheduled meetings. I didn't answer phones. I didn't do instant messaging. All of those communication methods did not exist to connect with me. We had a process, we had a procedure, and this is what they needed to do to follow it. And then, because the clearer you define your communication boundaries from the start, it's going to be better for both of you. And if somebody starts to slide, and normally it's the client, you can remind them of the fact that these are the communications standards or policies that we are using to work together. The next part is your schedule. When will your contract begin? How much time are they getting from you every month? Or what should their expectations be around that? I still always tell VAs that working with clients doing weekly ongoing work for them is best. When you can really define what you're going to do for them on a regular basis, that makes all the other things easier. Scheduling, communication, all of that type of thing. But what are your business hours, and when will you be off or away? How much notice do you give before taking time off? This is a really good place to be able to just put that into your contract. Of course, you're going to have more detailed conversations with your clients about things like time off, about turnaround times, and about lead times once you start working together. But schedule stuff is important to include in your contract. Again, it's about setting that expectation so that people know that it is an issue or there is a policy or a boundary in place that we're going to adhere to. And all of those things are really important considerations for your contract. Payment terms. This is probably the second most important part of your contract. I always tell you, your clients want to know what you can do for them and how much it will cost them. So in your contract, that refers to your scope of work and your payment terms. Those are the two things that the client needs to know more than anything to know that they're going to work well with you. How and when do your clients need to pay you? I highly suggest getting paid in advance, as you know, or taking prepayment for the services that you're going to render. It makes things a lot easier for you, but certainly it protects you also from doing work and then perhaps not getting paid, which does happen sometimes. But what happens if a client does pay late, even if they're prepaying? You need to indicate that in the payment terms as well. You want to be clear from the start. And then if the client doesn't hold up their end of the bargain for any reason, you have the ability to handle it quickly. The other thing to indicate is what happens if they go over budget or are massively under budget. Do you roll hours over? How do you handle if they've prepaid you and they haven't sent you enough work? Of course, that comes back to weekly ongoing work as well. You want to be able to know that they are going to be using the time that they purchased from you. Do you have a use it or lose it policy? If you do, then you need to make sure that you put that in the contract. Everything needs to go in there in terms of the payment that you're going to be taking in return for the work that you're going to be doing for them. And confidentiality. A confidentiality clause helps you let the client know that you're going to protect their stuff. Tell them that you're not going to disclose or discuss their company info and data with anyone. Indicate that right in your contract and let them know how you manage secure things like their passwords or shared access to their files and programs. This is what we call non-disclosure. I want to get really clear on this. It's confidentiality, meaning you're not going to, disclose it or happen to have somebody else being able to look at it. But the whole idea around sharing is non-disclosure. It takes the place of an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. That's basically what you're covering by detailing this in your contract. Sometimes clients will also ask you to sign their NDA, which to me has always been fine. If they want, I will always include it in my contract, but if they feel more comfortable sending me something from their lawyer that says that I'm not allowed to disclose or discuss their company info and data with anybody else, I am absolutely willing to sign it every time. The other thing, though, that your clients may ask of you is something called a non-compete. And we hear this often. They are not the same thing, okay? This often means that you're going to agree not to work with similar businesses to that particular client. I'm going to say they are not the same. They do not need to be signed. You don't have to agree to this as a business owner, and you definitely do not need to put it in your contract. Your VA business is your business. If you have a client who's worried that you're going to work with their competition, they actually just might not be a good client for you. Some businesses need non-competes. Real estate is one of those areas that, there's a non-compete issue. There are definitely places for them. VAs who use subcontractors will often put it into their agreements. As a single service provider for a client, you don't need to agree to it. If you want to, that's one thing, but if you don't need to. And as a service business operator, an NDA is all you need. The other thing that I want to point out right now is that your client should not be allowed to change your contract. I didn't have this in my notes when I first began, but as I'm recording this, I'm realizing that this actually comes up more often than we think it does. The client does not get to edit your contract and send it back to you. They need to sign it as is. If they have a concern about the scope of work or the payment because it's something that you did not discuss or that that they were surprised by, you can then revise the contract. But all of the other details, all of the other sections that I'm telling you right now to put into your contract, the client doesn't get to decide those things for you. That's really important. I'm just going to leave it at that, and maybe we'll discuss that a little more in detail another time. Because the last thing you need to do is put into your contract a dissolution clause. Now, what does dissolution mean? It's just a fancy word to say how you dissolve the contract. It's the end of the relationship with the client. I include two things in this part in my contracts. The first is how to end it in the first 30 days. Sometimes things just aren't a fit. So what you want to do is give yourself and the client an immediate out. And I've always just said either party can end this agreement or dissolve this agreement in the first 30 days for any reason whatsoever. And any unused money or prepaid funds will be returned to the client. It's a safety net for the client if things don't work out, if things don't seem to be going the way they're going. And then if I haven't done the work for them, then I always return the initial retainer or the part that I have not used. If I have used hours in the first week or two or something like that, I will take those out. But it's just a really good business thing to be able to describe that before you even begin working with someone. You can do whatever you want, but the 30 days, anybody can get out for any reason, really just makes things easier for me as the service provider, and it helps the client be more comfortable as well. And have I used that 30 days before, that 30-day clause? I have, some of my clients have, and I'll tell you, it's totally okay. All right. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And then the second part is what happens if either of you want out after that 30 days. The second part, my contract always indicated, is that with 30 days of written notice, either party can end the agreement. And again, I always felt that this protected me as much as it protected the client. Don't be scared that a client is going to leave you. If you're working well together, they're not going to. You just need to do your best, and you're going to enjoy long-term relationships with your clients, just like I have for many, many years. The dissolution clause is there to help and protect both of you. And really, 30 days is plenty of time to find a new client to replace this one if you happen to break up. So I want you to be confident and put it in there and know that it's there to protect you. Now, of course, you want to have a lawyer look over your contract to make sure that it protects you and that it reads correctly. But you don't have to give your clients legal speak. You can use normal business language in your contract and still have it be legally sound. And that's it. That's all you really need in your contract. There are other things you could put in for sure, and maybe you will, but those things are the most important things to consider. I hope I've helped you see that it doesn't have to be crazy technical, and also that why each of these sections are so important. to protect you, but also to set those client expectations, right? Your contract is an essential document in your business, and I don't want you to do business without it. It makes me crazy when I hear that VAs are doing business without contracts and without detailing the scope of what they're going to do. And then inevitably, the scope creep goes crazy. The client asks for work and the VA just continues to say yes, yes, yes. The VA goes over on hours and doesn't know what to do with it. The client pays late and the VA doesn't know what to do about it. It is so easy to have a contract in place before you start working with someone that will handle all of these questions and the answers to them should the situations arise. And then I also want you to be sure to review the contract at least annually with your client or when your scope of work changes significantly. It's not a one and done. It doesn't need to be. You don't have to up your rates every quarter or anything like that, but you do want to revisit the fact that these are the things I'm doing. This is the rate. Everything's good. At least do that annually and you'll be sure that it's going to continue working for you for a long time. These are exactly the kinds of things I help VAs do. As a VA coach and trainer, I help you set yourself up for success, helping you fix the specific things that are going wrong in your business. When we work together, either privately or in a group, we talk specifically about your business and you. There isn't a one-stop solution for everybody when it comes to a service business like a VA business, like your VA business. I can help you get clarity around what you're stuck on and cheer you on as you walk through the steps to fix it. I've helped hundreds of VAs through their challenges, and I've gotten them on their way to growing their business and the lifestyle that they dream of. I would love to do the same thing for you. You can work with me privately, or you can join the Virtual Circle, my mastermind group for virtual assistants. You can check it out at yourvamentor.com/TVC, as in the virtual circle. I bet it's exactly what you need to start running the VA business that you've dreamed of. Reach out to me if you're interested. That's all I've got for you this week. I know, another shorty, but it's short and sweet. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Ridiculously Good VA Show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more great resources for your VA business, visit my website at yourvamentor.com. I'll see you back here next time.